Proof of stake and proof of work are two methods that cryptocurrency networks use to verify transactions and prevent fraud. This video will discuss the differences between these methods and their pros and cons to determine which one makes more sense for your project. If you guys are reading online, you might have read articles that point out that Bitcoin requires massive amounts of electricity to secure the blockchain. Why is that? A question I will leave you with is, what are the alternatives? The proof of work algorithm takes a lot of processing power to mine new coins. The concept was first introduced in 1993 to fight spam emails, and it was formerly known as proof of work in 1997. Nevertheless, this technique was hardly ever used until Satoshi Nakamoto developed Bitcoin in 2009. Nakamoto recognized that the mechanism could reach a consensus between many nodes in a network, and he used it to secure the Bitcoin blockchain. Although the proof of work algorithm uses nodes in the web to find a solution to a cryptographic puzzle, the first to solve it gets a small reward. All of this has led to the situation in which people are constructing increasingly larger mining farms, such as this one. As per Digiconomists, Bitcoin miners alone use about 54 TWh hours of electricity, enough to power 5 million US households or even power the entire country of New Zealand or Hungary. It goes beyond that, however. Proof of work rewards people with more and better equipment with more mining rewards. The higher your hash rate is, the higher your chance to create the next block and thus receive the mining reward. To increase your chances even further, you can join a mining pool. Therefore, to put it all in context, proof of work involves encouraging miners to consume electricity through the process of mining and running, leading to an algorithm that centralizes a system that in the future would otherwise have been more decentralized. We have to find a new consensus algorithm that is just as good or better than proof of work to fix these issues. In 2011, a Bitcoin Talk forum user called Quantum Mechanic proposed a new proof of stake technique. The notion is that letting everyone compete against each other with mining it is a wasteful idea. So instead, proof of work uses an election process. We do one whole scale where one node is chosen to dictate what to play next. I should also mention the slight difference in the term used here. Proof of stake eliminates the concept of miners, who use hashing power, and replaces them with validators, who mint or create new blocks. To become a validator, a node must deposit a certain amount of coins in the network. The bigger the stake you put down, the greater the likelihood of you being chosen to create the next block. Let's say Rob deposits $100 into the network, while Maria deposits $1,000. Maria now has a 10 times greater chance of being chosen to forge the next block. It might not seem fair that proof of work favors the rich, but it's more modest than it would be under proof of work. With proof of work, rich people can enjoy the power of economies of scale. At the same time, they continue to collect a linear amount of capital to power their mining equipment and utilities. Contrary to popular belief, when people buy more, they get a better price. Now onto proof of stake. Once a node is chosen to validate the next block, he will check if all transactions within it are valid, and if everything checks out, the signer appends the new block to the blockchain, and the block is registered and uploaded. The node should be the only one getting any profits or dividends inside this block. Yes, but how can we trust that the validators we need to run the network will have accurate information? Well, this is where the state comes in. If a validator confirms a fraudulent transaction, they will lose some stakes. If the stake is higher than the amount they receive from the transaction fees, we can trust them to do their job correctly, because if not, they'll lose more money than they'll earn. An economic motivator still exists as long as the stakes are higher than the sum of all the transaction fees. If a node stops being a validator, his stake, plus all the transaction fees that he got, will be released after a certain time, not straight away, because the network still needs to be able to punish you. Now, what would happen if they discovered that some of your blocks were fabricated? The significance of the difference between proof of work and proof of stake is relatively large. With proof of stake, blocks are forged, not mined, and energy use is, therefore, significantly less. On the other hand, it's also more of a federation. Why is that? In proof of work, we have mining pools. Those are people who team up to increase their chance of mining a new block and getting a reward. These pools now control large sections of the Bitcoin blockchain. That might be harmful to the integrity of the mining process. If 3 of the largest mining pools merge, they will have a majority in the network and could start approving fraudulent transactions. But before we continue with this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed so far. So going back to what we're talking about, more notable benefits that are setting up a proof of stake based blockchain is a lot less expensive than a work based one. You don't need to invest in expensive mining equipment, which lowers the barriers to entry. Proof of stake encourages more people to set up a node, and it does so to a greater degree. This ensures that the network becomes more decentralized and more secure. However, proof of stake also has its flaws, and they can be pointed out as well. Now you might say, hold on, not so fast. If I buy a majority stake in the network, I can control it and approve any fraudulent transactions, which you would be correct about. That's called a 51% attack. It was first brought up as a weak point of the proof of work algorithm. If a single miner or group of miners could acquire 51% of the hashing power, they could control the blockchain. Furthermore, proof of stake makes this attack impractical depending on the value of a cryptocurrency. As of right now, acquiring 51% of all bitcoins in proof of stake would be difficult, so there is less risk of being satisfied when they show that they have stake. But that is not the only risk. These proof of stake algorithms must be careful of how they choose the next validator. It cannot be completely random because the size of the stake has to be considered. Yet at the same time, a stake alone isn't enough. That will only serve to favor the rich, which will be chosen more often, collect more transaction fees, and become even more prosperous, further increasing their chances of being selected as a validator. Several proposals have been proposed to fix this base selection based on coinage. One potential problem is when the network selects the next validator. This could be solved by having a large number of backup validators. Proof of stake has more potential risk factors than proof of work, and extensive research is needed to identify these potential risks and mitigate them. Okay, so now that we know what proof of stake is, its benefits and its risks, let's look at some examples of it in the real world. Purecoin and NXT are a few currencies that currently use proof of stake, but we can probably expect to see many more coins using it. For example, Ethereum is creating Casper, a proof of stake system currently deployed in the Ethereum testnet and in active development. The Cardano project has developed a proven secure proof of stake algorithm known as Boris. Well, that's the end of this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. That concludes this video. See you in the next one.